Let's start off this morning in Tehran with Danial Rahmat, Senior Energy Security Consultant in Iran, one of Iran's top energy analysts. Daniel, the current situation this week feels like we're kind of in a moment where something needs to shift, something is going to shift. The week started with Trump once again threatening imminent war, restarting, and then there was a pause for Gulf states to lead what seems to be a separate or same effort as the Pakistanis. A little unclear to me if it's one peace negotiation, but ultimately there's some efforts by the local countries to try get involved. What's your read of the situation as it currently stands? Are we close to a deal, or is this all Trumpian noise, do you think?
Hello, Sean, and everybody. It's again a great pleasure to be here. Um, it's a very tricky situation. Everybody is sick and tired of the current situation in the region. Market needs more oil, and of course, if the situation continues, you're going to face a huge long-term economic crisis, and everybody is aware of that. But the point is, the Iranians and American position are still very far from each other. And the major obstacle within this current negotiations is not the efforts of the countries. Pakistan has done its best. The Gulf countries are very eager to make a deal. Let's say UAE apart, the whole GCC is doing their best to make a deal between Iran and the US, but the element is Israel. The Benjamin Netanyahu's political decision is very different with the situation and all the demands of the global market. And also Iran is also understanding that this cannot last forever. But the leverage Iran has gained during this war, which is the Strait of Hormuz, is pushing a lot of pressure on America. And the point is whether the pressure from this leverage is higher than the pressure from the Israelis' lobby or not. But at the moment, I think the positions are still very far from each other. Maybe a kind of interim deal could be a resolution to take the market back to the normal situation, if you can call it.
And what is daily life like in Tehran at the moment? I mean, we're here in Dubai, continue to sort of try to get everything back to normal, schools and work and all the usual stuff, with this big cloud still lingering in the background. What's daily life like in Tehran? Are you able to get all the food you need? Are you able to go about your day? What's that like at the moment?
The life is very normal here. Inflation apart, which we had a huge wave of inflation after the war. Inflation apart, things are normal. Everything is accessible, but the horizon is very dark because the sea is blocked, and we don't know whether we have a lot of land borders with countries like Turkey, Pakistan, the CIS countries in the north, and to Iraq. So goods are being imported to the country, but the cost has increased very much. And we are not sure whether the already damaged economy can tolerate or can survive this huge new waves of inflation and higher prices. And additionally, the steel industry and petrochemical industry were hit. So these were the two pillars of Iranian domestic economy, which we need to see with what pace we are going to be able to repair them.
Well, before we had the summit in China last week, we were talking a little bit about, you had mentioned that Iran would probably like to see China embed the Iranian US, the settlement sort of pathway forward inside a grand bargain of China, US, and so forth, and maybe act as some kind of guarantor. Daniel, did you see anything in the China-US summit that gave you encouragement that China would do a little bit more heavy lifting here to help get to a settlement?
Sean, you see, China's major priority in its geopolitical plan is Taiwan. And the Middle East crisis has become a kind of leverage over the China and the US position on Taiwan, I think. But China has very openly informed Americans that they want to continue buying Iranian crude. That means that the flow of crude from the Strait of Hormuz, including Iranian crude, is one of the top priorities of President Xi. And this is a sign that tells me that a higher level of escalation between Iran and the US is not 100% is not in the basket of China's actually demands from Americans. So this, if we cannot call it one of the major pillars of American-Chinese future, close future of actually, if we can call it new balance, could be a part of that. But at the same time, China refused to step in to push Iran or the US to conclude the current crisis. So I think part of the Iranian-American crisis was discussed with President Xi, but not the whole package was agreed because China, the Chinese policy is if you enter more than a certain level inside a problem, you will be a part of the problem, not a part of the solution. So Chinese are trying to keep themselves away from the crisis, to keep their hand up to be able to be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem.
Danial, I wanted to get your views on the question of when we talked before with the shutdown of the embargo or the blockade on Iranian ports and the flow of Iranian oil in and out. The question came whether we would have to close in production in, like we've seen in Iraq and in Kuwait and in Qatar. What's the outlook for Iran managing the blockade on its ports and shutting in production?
Sean, our domestic consumption during April was about 2.2 million barrels per day. And during May, on average, it was a little bit more, about 2.3 million barrels per day. And at the same time, the average of Iranian crude exports was about 400,000 barrels per day. So you see, on an average of 2.7 million barrels was domestically produced, and part of that, small portion of that was exported and domestically produced. And Iran has taken several measures. As I told you before, there are railways connecting Iran to China. The capacity is still limited, but Iran is increasing the capacity of exporting more crude to China towards its railways. And also, there are always ways to bypass the sanctions by exporting oil to neighboring countries. But this is not.
You had said before that was a 500,000 barrel a day sort of maximum.
Yeah, maximum capacity, I think, would be, but this is not at the moment practical. A big portion of that 400,000 barrels was exported by sea. This is the average of May. But let's say it's going to take time for Iran to reach solutions for increasing its land crude oil exporting capacity. But the lion's share of the Iranian current production is consumed domestically, and still there's huge, let's say, onshore storage capacity remaining. So I'm not very worried about the short-term production. This is the production has decreased significantly, but this is not going to damage the Iranian oil industry because Iran is technically capable and can manage which wells to shut down and which ones not to. But this is going to be a short-term policy. Iran is trying to, with this way or the other, let the Chinese oil flow towards the strait, and also recently one Korean-linked VLCC passed the strait to kind of send a message to Americans that let's loosen the blockade. But this is 100% tied to the conclusion of any kind of deal with the US.
But up till
As I
now,
said,
what you're saying ultimately, up till now, there's been no need to shut in production yet.
yes, no need to shut in the major part, the lion's share of the production. You know, Iran has huge domestic consumption. Iran can consume more liquids and instead export more natural gas to neighboring countries. It's a kind of indirect export of products. You know, Iran is consuming more liquid fuels in its power plants and instead can export more gas to Iraq and Turkey.